The dirty dozen. Here are some wasteful federal grants. A bunch of whack Dems have gone to the media to complain about Trump's attack on USAID. These are the same clowns who authorized the horrible waste of money that we're seeing. Remember that America is paying almost $1 trillion a year on the federal debt. Maybe these other countries should start sending aid to us. As discussion of wasteful projects hits the news, a recent news report tipped me to an article in the Federalist by M.D. Kittle, where he highlights his picks for wasting our tax dollars. Time does not permit the full details of the list, but how about some examples? The article starts with a numbing statistic. The Government Accountability Office says taxpayers lost more than $100 billion in improper payments. $50.3 billion in Medicaid payments and $55.1 billion in Medicare in 2023 alone. The payment errors represented 43% of the total of $240 billion in improper payments reported throughout all federal agencies. All told, federal taxpayers were on the hook for $2.7 trillion in payment errors between 2003 and 2023, according to the Government Accountability Office. Think about if we didn't have wasted that money, that our federal debt would be much lower. So what are we paying for? How about some of the examples? The State Department, $100,000 for a fun run for Palestinian girls. National Science Foundation, 2-year grant of $1.5 million at Florida State University to fund, I quote, Black feminist epistemologies building a sisterhood in computing. National Science Foundation, $119,520 for a conference titled Reimagining Biology Education Through Social Justice, featuring a talk on gender-inclusive adaptations to biology teaching. Imagine that. I thought in biology they taught us there were 2 genders. Department of Agriculture, $717,000 to Ohio State University. Money's being used to solve cultural resistance in the USA and Europe that impedes the acceptance of insect proteins as food sources. Folks, how many of us want to eat bugs? Another National Science Foundation, $399,930, let's call it $400,000, to Montana State University. This is a DEI project funded through September 2027 and supposed to honor indigenous knowledge by, quote, infusing native ways of knowing into engineering education, but without engaging in the misappropriation of indigenous knowledge. What about misappropriation of taxpayer dollars, folks? Institute of Museum and Library Science, $352,799 to the University of Wisconsin System to investigate play-based programs and spaces at museums and to develop a diversity audit tool for practitioners to examine their play programs and spaces for DEI and other considerations. Come on, folks. National Science Foundation again, $634,856, also to the University of Wisconsin, urgent yet underexplored dimensions of equity-minded pedagogical change work in higher education. Folks, I have a PhD in higher education. I don't know what that stands for. Department of Health and Human Services, $792,443 to the University of Texas, Austin, studying the concept that people are normally heterosexual. Yep, didn't make that up, folks. National Science Foundation, $445,600 to Ohio State University for girls doing rock climbing. Yep. Department of Health and Human Services, $600,000 to my alma mater, the University of Virginia. Study structural ableism and basically the dominance of normal people who are heterosexual. Gosh, do you think we could just read a 50-year-old biology textbook and figure that out? National Science Foundation, we'll wrap up here. more than 112,000 of Rutgers University to develop, I quote, theory around processes of social control, state practices, human agency about the deportation of immigrants with criminal records. Hey, folks, they're called illegals, and we shouldn't have let them in the first place. I don't need to study that.